over the years, it's been an absolute privilege to interview the likes of Dickie Guy, Dave Bassett, Dave Besant, Laurie Sanchez, Seb Brown, Danny Kedwell. But there's one man that I've really wanted to have an interview with and have a good chat with. And that is the first captain of AFC Wimbledon. He used to play for some other club in London, but now he's Wimbledon. It is Joe Sheerin. Joe, how are you?
Brilliant. Yeah, that's a great intro, mate. I'll take those alongside those names.
How's things been during the crisis as well? You've been coping okay? Yeah.
Yeah, been doing really well. Yeah, family's good. Everyone's healthy. It's been okay. Yeah, I can't complain.
We're going to talk about the events of July the 10th, 2002, a historic day for AFC Wimbledon. But let's just go back a little bit before that, because your link with Wimbledon Football Club actually goes back to 1997. Tell us about that.
Oh, yeah, that was my debut for Chelsea. Yeah, short and sweet, but yeah, something I'll never forget. Especially as I growing up in Wimbledon, it was a sort of lucky coincidence that my first game was against Wimbledon. So club that I'd been to as a kid, many times before, Plough Lane. That was my local ground. It was about a mile away from there. So yeah, that was where I got to see all my live football anyway, growing up. So yeah, it was a nice coincidence there.
What memories do you have of watching the Wimbledon of old then? Tell us about that.
I remember, I used to go in that. Do you remember the little corner cage that was in the at Plough Lane? It was right near the corner flag, and me and a group of mates used to go along to games there, and that was the side with Glyn Hodges would have been playing in that side. Dennis Wise, Laurie Sanchez, Fashanu, which was great. I mean, that was, such a fun time for Wimbledon. It was just before the FA Cup final in '88 when obviously they beat Liverpool. So that was a really special time to go and watch the club.
Going back to 1997, though, when you were a promising Chelsea youngster amongst a crop of youngsters that were coming through at Chelsea, without trying to make us both seem that old, Wimbledon back in the day, then they were in there competing in semi-finals with Chelsea. They were up there in the Premier League. Tell us the memories of Wimbledon then.
Yeah, I mean, Wimbledon were always, they were always punched above their weight, and even then, I'm trying to think back to that sort of era, that side. But I remember going to watch the semi-final at Highbury. Zola scored an absolute worldie of a goal in that game. But I mean, the game's always competitive. I think I remember a game would have been around about that time. You probably remember this. I think you'd done Chelsea 4-1 or 4-0 at the Bridge.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I remember. Do you remember the one with Frank Leboeuf when he had the big?
Yes, absolutely.
The big lump on his forehead. I was in the dressing room at half time, and he came in, and we were all shocked at the size of it. I mean, always a good side. Robbie Earle, I remember what a fantastic player he was. I got to play in a charity game with him, and he was still brilliant. He was still the best player on the pitch. So a lot of good players at that time.
Bringing it forward now, because I remember seeing your name in that first Wimbledon team, and I thought, I've heard of the name there. How did Joe Sheerin become involved with playing for AFC Wimbledon? How did that come about?
Well, I'd left Bournemouth about a year and a half before, and then I picked up a bad injury. I broke a bone in my foot, and it sort of kept me from moving to another club. So I had this sort of year and a half absence from football where I was looking to get back into it, but struggling to sort of find a route back into football. And a few friends of mine, the same guys I used to go down to watch football, watch Wimbledon at Plough Lane, they said they're doing a trial for the new club. And I thought, I'll go along, give it a go. I hadn't played football, like I said, in about a year and a half. And yeah, and that was it. Went down to the trial, and yeah, the rest is history.
Well, I mean, June 2002. Then, when you turn up for the trials, tell us about that, because that is a unique experience. That's a real part of AFC Wimbledon's history. You were there from the start. What was that like?
Yeah, that was crazy. That was absolutely crazy. It was. I mean, I don't know. I want to say it was about 500 people there. I mean, I might be exaggerating, but it was mad. And I remember thinking, there's no way you're going to be able to spot talent in this larger group. I was thinking there's about 5 or 6 coaches trying to spot some good players amongst this crowd of young lads. And so I remember doing the warm up, and then I thought I spotted Terry Eames, and I thought I'm going to go up to him and have a quick chat with him, just to explain my background, where I'd been. And I think when I'd said I played for Chelsea, his eyes lit up. And yeah, and that was it. I didn't play anymore. I just sort of said to Terry, "This is who I'd love to play for the club." And yeah, he was. I think 2 days later, he named me captain.
Because the standard of players that turned up, because of course you've got yourself who've been on the books of Chelsea, but I mean, it was wide ranging, shall we put it?
Yeah. I mean, it was just, yeah. I mean, you had some good young players, that had been around at a few non-league clubs, and I think people just trying their luck. I think people just thought, I think a lot of fans turned up as well. I think, because what I mean, if you were a fan growing up, and the chance to even trial for the club would have been brilliant. So there was a really wide range of talents and personalities there. So it was a tough job to pick a team.
Of course, you're a striker, and you spoke to Terry Ames, as you said, and he gives you the captaincy, a tremendous honour to be AFC Wimbledon's first captain. Do you remember that?
He phoned me up a few days later. I'm thinking we might have had a training session before that, but then he rang me up and said he wanted to make me captain. And I'd never been a captain before. Centre forwards don't normally make good captains, or you don't often see centre forwards named captains. So I said that. Are you sure, Tel? And he was like, absolutely, I want you to be my captain. So I'm not. Yeah, obviously I wasn't going to turn it down. I thought, what a chance. And I don't think I quite knew the scale of it. So I was like, yeah, let's do it.
Well, that leads us to what we're here for as well. I mean, July the 10th, 2002. I mean, pre-season, usually around that time, you get a few of the hardcore fans who want the first glimpse of the team, and a few scouts as well. But this was a completely different night. Just set the scene for us.
Yeah, well, I mean, I played in a lot of pre-season friendlies with Chelsea, and you got a few hundred people turning up, like you said, hardcore fans and things like that. But yeah, nothing would have prepared me for what I saw as I was driving into the ground. You just had the streets were lined with fans cheering, trying to get into the car park. It was just packed. Just a party atmosphere, but like I said, it was just the streets were crowded, and I hadn't seen anything like that, especially for a pre-season game. So that was really when I thought, wow, this is something special.
Of course, that night as well, playing for the opposition was another future AFC Wimbledon great, Kevin Cooper. How do you remember the game going?
Yeah, I remember Coop scoring. I mean, he always scored Coops, but yeah, it was. I remember it was a hard game because like I said, we'd just been put together. Sutton are a very good non-league side, and playing in front of the crowds, they were well up for it. I just think we were a little bit all over the place, but the main thing was we got through it, and I don't think it was about the result at all. It was just about that first game, that achievement of bringing this club together and sort of giving the fans their club back. So I don't think the result mattered at all.
No, I mean, as you say, I mean, it was a special night. I remember Barry James, who worked with us on Radio WDN, with his board there saying AFC Wimbledon is born on the terraces, and that's what it was all about, really, wasn't it? I mean, as you said, from starting up a club from absolute scratch, and there must be so many people that you still stay in contact with that you're very proud of that did that.
Yeah, I mean that's what made the club. I mean, the people. I still go down to the ground. Still going to see a few games when I can, and I see the same faces. You know, people that were there from day one. You know, so many volunteers that did amazing work. And when you think about, Chris and Ivor, what they did at the start, and Eric, um, it's just, I mean, it's a credit to all those people, that hard work that they put in, that has got the club where it is today.
Did you think that night when you were there, when you were stepping out and being around that, did you think, well, this is something special? Or did you actually think, actually one day they could all get it back. They could get everything back. They could be back at Plough Lane. They could be a Football League team again.
Yeah, I think when you saw the people behind it, and you saw the drive, and the determination, and just the fact that the fans had gone from, going away to Anfield, Old Trafford, and the great days, great memories, and then they were still turning up to watch us, in almost a park pitch with a rope round it, with the same enthusiasm, the same passion. It was amazing. I mean, it really sort of showed you that, they weren't going to let the club die, and what was done to them was so bad. It must have hurt a lot. And I think when you saw that kind of passion and drive was behind it, I think you knew one day it was going to happen. I don't know if I thought it was going to happen as soon as it has. I think that's amazing. That really is. The speed. I mean, with which happened has been amazing. But I knew it would happen eventually. Yeah.
In terms of your time with us as well, your main stay with us, I mean, 80 odd games, 30 plus goals for us as well. What were the standout memories for you when you were playing for AFC Wimbledon?
The lads, I think, was probably something that I always will go back to, because they were an amazing bunch of lads in that dressing room. We had some characters, some great footballers. We had some players that could have played a lot higher, should have played a lot higher. Young players coming through that were going to play a lot higher. So we had a real good team and a real good, camaraderie. So that's what stands out the most. I mean, I wish I'd have played more games. I know I suffered with a lot of injuries, which was a shame. But apart from that, I mean, it was just, it's fantastic. Probably the best, time of my career. The most enjoyable, time I've had in football was my time with AFC Wimbledon.
You must be tremendously proud of somebody like Simon Bassey, who's been there all the way through it, virtually.
Yeah, I mean, what a legend. I mean, absolute legend. I mean, he was a really good player. When he came to us, he'd had a few bad injuries and he wasn't quite what he used to be, but his football brain was second to none. And spent many a night me and him at the bar with him, talking football to me till the late hours. And I knew that he had that knowledge and that ability to go on to coaching. But I'm chuffed that he stayed there as long as he did. And he's just a legend, Bassey.
And you mentioned the bar there, but from a serious point of view as well, how important was that relationship between the fans and the players and keeping that? Because, I mean, you've been at a big club like Chelsea, but to be able to mix and socialise with those fans who built that club at the end of each game.
Yeah, that was what was, I think, unique to, my experience in football, because coming from Chelsea, I mean, there's definitely a bigger divide between the players and the fans, obviously at that level. But when you got to mingle straight after games with all the fans and drink and socialise with them, you know, you got a real insight into you know, how they felt about the club and football, and often about your own performance. You know, they weren't shy on telling you, but you could have that banter back, and you could talk about the game, you know, and which I don't think footballers at a high level, you know, will ever get to do. Maybe on social media nowadays, but back then it was something I hadn't experienced before and loved. You know, when I still go to games now, I'm still going drinking with the same fans that were there when I was playing. You know, and we just talk about the old days, which is what's, you know, so brilliant about going back there. You know?
As time moved on, of course, as well, under Dave Anderson and then to Terry Brown, and you know, you kept following the club. Can you remember the day of 2011, getting promoted back into the Football League? How did that make you feel? You must have been so proud of that.
Yeah, I did. It hit me. Obviously, at the end of the game, it hit me. I mean, I took my daughter. I think my dad came as well, and a few mates, and it was just an amazing day. But yeah, at the end, it hit you that, wow, you know, this in 10 years, you know, less than 10 years, look what the club's done, you know, and yeah, it was just like, wow, just to be part of that, knowing that, you know, I played a small part in that was a nice feeling.
Of course, the next landmark we've got coming up now, we're seeing these exciting images day by day of Plough Lane growing again, the new stuff. We speak to so many of the old actual Wimbledon FC players, and they say, well, they haven't had a home to go back to. They're going back to Plough Lane. For yourself, your time with AFC Wimbledon, of course, your career was really at Kings Meadow. How do you feel now about going back to Plough Lane?
Well, I think for the players that played for Wimbledon at Plough Lane, it's going to be a real special moment, you know, as obviously as well for the fans. But yeah, it's just like I said, I grew up very close to the ground. I you know, I've watched so much football there. A lot of fond memories of it, and to be, you know, very proud to be AFC Wimbledon captain for the time I was. So I'll just be over the moon that the club are back home, which was the end goal, you know. So you know that, and whenever you get to that end goal, you know, it's a happy day for everyone. So.
Excited seeing the images of the stadium, the main stand there, now the pitch. I mean, it's not far away. Once we get out of this, it's going to be exciting times for Wimbledon fans, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it is exciting times. It's you know, everything looks amazing. You know, it's just going to be when you get to see it, when you get to walk in, and you know, walk up the steps, and you get to see the pitch and everything. I'm sure I wish I was, you know, 20 years younger, and lacing them up and getting out there, you know.
But of course, I mean, as you said, I mean, you know, you probably set out in your early part of your career, you know, to be a Chelsea player, to go out there to win honours and so on. But you look back now, that when you come to that day, when you walk into Plough Lane, you can feel tremendously pleased with what you achieved to get Wimbledon to there. You know, it's a big part of your career, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think now when I reflect on it, I think that's probably what I'm most proud of. You know, just because it was never my intention to stay at the club. It was originally just go there, do the trial, get fit, and then get back into league football. That was the original plan, and I think, like I said, from that day one, I just thought, no, this is something to be, you know, to be part of. And whenever you're part of something special like this, you can look back and be proud of it, you know, instead of maybe trying to, can I get back into a league club, play for a couple of seasons there and move on somewhere else, just to call something which was so close to me anyway, close to my heart and home anyway, to be able to be part of that and the journey. Yeah, I mean, I've made a a good decision.
And those fans that were there that night, July the 10th, 2002, of course, they just wanted to see their own football club again. They just wanted to see football and to watch Wimbledon again. They never set out to sort of try and set an example, but possibly this could be a blueprint for football for the future, for how clubs are going to have to operate, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, if it has the same, kind of people behind it that Wimbledon had, and I think it will work, and I think what I always look back on is it's just that people were so proud to have their club back and for it, because the club, it belongs to the fans, and that's Wimbledon taught me that. And I think when you're in football and you're in that football bubble, especially as a player, you can lose sight of that, because you have to be, in a way, quite selfish and quite self-absorbed, so Wimbledon definitely taught me that this game is about the fans, because we were all fans once at one stage, so yeah, I mean, if you can I think look back on it and yeah, well, what the club have done is it's remarkable, and hopefully it will set a blueprint for other clubs that are in trouble, to do the same.
What was really refreshing for you, once you're stepping back into the game with Wimbledon, just being able to have that connection with the fans in such an important way?
It's funny because, like I said, when you're involved in football at a high level, and it's everything you're trying to do, you don't really think about the fans as such, because and sometimes you think negatively about the way you're criticised and stuff like that, and that can affect how you feel about football. And for me, I remember it was finding a love for the game again, and that was a huge part to do with playing in front of that crowd and getting that support. There's no better feeling in the world, scoring a goal, and being able to jump into the crowd like we used to be able to do, that was special. And I think we know that group of players that have been there, especially from the beginning, whenever I speak to them or bump into lads I haven't seen in a while, we have that sort of that connection that we know how good that was, and how much fun that was. So that's that was what was so good about being able to be so close to the fans and have that connection.
There's one thing I really want to talk to you about as well. I had the privilege as well of last summer, a really unique story as well. Our first mascot for the game against Chipstead was a young lad. You carried him out, called Elliot Bolton, of course.
First home match, yeah. And I was the first mascot.
That's quality.
Yeah. Jason was captain as well.
He's now competing to earn a pro contract all these years later. How does that make you feel? You must be so pleased for him.
Oh, that's crazy. That is, I was lovely. I saw his dad not long ago, and he gave me some pictures of that game against Chipstead. I remember being so nervous to get carried. I don't think I'd ever held a baby before, so I remember carrying him out, and I'd seen him a couple of times as he grew up, at games, but it was a shock when I saw that. But so chuffed, I mean, how amazing was that? That game, to be able to carry him out, and then 17 years later, he's knocking on the door of the first team. That's special. That's brilliant. So pleased for him.
You talk about the memories, of course, that we have of Glyn Hodges, the player, and at the moment, obviously, of course, he's got a very young squad as well. But that's another important aspect as well, isn't it? Having that connection with the local area, the young players that are coming through Wimbledon, giving the opportunities to those players going forward.
Always. I mean, especially a club like Wimbledon in the league they're in. It's a tough league, and if you can get some good young homegrown players to come through together, you know, which is always it's always better if you can get a crop to come through together, because it always means that little bit more. You know, it's just no matter. You know, you always want to think you go out there and give 100% every game for everyone, no matter who you're playing for. But it's definitely more a pride when it's the club you've come up through, your local club, and you know, that counts for a lot. And that can, you know, managers love that if they get a group of young local lads coming through, and the fans love it as well. I mean, there's nothing better, is it, for the fans than you know, people in the stands who've seen them come through the ranks and you know, grow up in the club. That's always special.
Of course, in that area of London as well, you know, Chelsea, Fulham, and so on as well. We're competing against them, but as the years move on now, and having that new stadium, the chance to grow the fan base, the chance to sort of tap into the local talent as well that's there, that's going to be so important going forward, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, let's try and you know, get as many local lads as, you know, back into Wimbledon as we can, because there's tough competition in London. You know, everyone seems to be a Arsenal or Chelsea fan. You know, so having that stadium there back in Plough Lane, yeah, it's definitely going to bring in a new generation of fans, and you know, that's what all clubs need. So it's going to, you know, it's going to help a lot, I think.
Joe, it's been an absolute privilege talking to you. I'm glad we've ticked that box at last. We've managed to do the interview,
yeah,
which is great, and reminisce about some great times, but also looking forward to the future for AFC Wimbledon. And it's a bright future.
Definitely, yeah, absolutely. It's been fun, mate. I'm glad we did it. I think, you know, like the same people that are behind it, you know, now and with a few more, it's heading in the right direction. And yeah, you know, hopefully one day I can, you know, go to the first game at the new stadium when they're in the Premier League. You know.